Welcome back to the cryptoworld channel, everyone. My name is Josh, and right now the Bitcoin recovery is continuing, but right now we're seeing a new Bitcoin signal flash that we need to pay attention to, while Bitcoin is now running into critical short-term resistance and also forming a new pattern, which I'll talk about in just a moment. And on top of that, BlackRock is continuing to buy more and more Bitcoin, and tomorrow there's a Federal Reserve meeting which could heavily affect the markets. And on top of that, Ethereum is still potentially repeating history. So I'll be talking about all of that and more later in the video, so definitely watch to the end. First of all, we need to talk about the upcoming FOMC meeting, also known as a Fed meeting, because this is basically where the Federal Open Market Committee decides on whether or not they're changing interest rates. And this can have a massive effect on the market depending on the outcome from the FOMC meeting. And this FOMC meeting interest rate decision will be happening at 7 p.m. in the GMT time zone tomorrow on the 31st of January. So basically, in around 1 day from now, we'll have the decision from the FOMC meeting whether or not they're changing interest rates. And as of right now, the federal funds rate on the high end is sitting at 5.5%, also known as 550 basis points, and the majority are expecting no change in interest rates. And if we're taking a look at what the futures market is currently pricing in for what we could expect at tomorrow's FOMC meeting, also known as a Fed meeting, once again, right now, the federal funds rate on the high end is sitting at 5.5%, also known as 550 basis points, and around 98% of the market is expecting for interest rates to stay the same with tomorrow's Fed meeting. So basically no change in interest rates. And roughly around 2% of the market is pricing in for an interest rate cut, which means reducing interest rates by 25 basis points or 0.25%. And I've explained all of this in much more detail in previous videos here on the channel, but basically all you need to know is lower interest rates are bullish for the economy and bullish for markets, and higher interest rates are bearish for the economy and bearish for markets. And basically what the majority is expecting, that is essentially the outcome that is priced into the market. And so basically what this means is if we end up seeing no change in interest rates with tomorrow's Fed meeting, then honestly, we shouldn't really have any major effect in the market because almost everyone is already expecting that and pricing that in right now. But if we see anything other than no change in interest rates tomorrow, then that is where we could see a lot more volatility. So for example, if we do end up seeing that interest rate cut, or somehow if we see an interest rate hike tomorrow, which personally I don't expect, but basically if we end up seeing some sort of change in interest rates, that is where we could see a lot more volatility in the market. And once again, lower interest rates bullish, higher interest rates bearish. So basically, if we do end up seeing that interest rate cut tomorrow, then that would be very bullish for the market. So we should expect a pump across the crypto market if the Federal Reserve reduces interest rates tomorrow. But on the other hand, if we somehow see an interest rate hike tomorrow, which no one is expecting, but basically if the Federal Reserve does end up raising interest rates, then that would be bearish for the market. And so we would likely see a dump across the market as soon as that outcome is announced, if that happens, which once again, not many people are really expecting. So once again, the neutral outcome where we shouldn't really expect a major move in the market at all is if we see no change in interest rates tomorrow. If we see an interest rate cut, we should see a pump across the market. And if we see a hike, we should see a dump across the market. And now, even if we do end up seeing that neutral outcome of no change in interest rates, we could end up still seeing some short-term volatility due to the Jerome Powell press conference based on what the chair of the Federal Reserve actually says in that press conference. And basically that happens around half an hour after the interest rate decision. So we'll get that interest rate decision at 7 p.m. in the GMT time zone tomorrow. And then roughly around half an hour after those new numbers come out, we'll have that press conference. And I will be covering all of this live over on my Twitter in real time. So make sure to follow me over on my Twitter if you want a real-time update. Links down below this video. And speaking about my extra updates that I post over on my Twitter, of course, just yesterday, Grayscale did end up sending another approximately 8,600 Bitcoin out of their Grayscale Bitcoin Trust over towards Coinbase, which is worth around $370 million US. And now, as I said in my last video here on the channel, normally around 1 to 2 weeks ago, Grayscale's been selling closer towards 15 to 20,000 Bitcoin per day. And so this is actually less selling pressure compared to normal. And I have been talking about recently on the channel how there's less and less selling pressure from Grayscale. And if we see this continue, if we see less than 10,000 Bitcoin sold per day, and especially if this number continues to decrease, then once again, that means less and less selling pressure from Grayscale, which is good news for Bitcoin. That is bullish for Bitcoin if there's less selling pressure. And so basically, as soon as we saw this come out just yesterday, we did end up seeing more of a bullish move just in the short term for the price of Bitcoin, because the market is now looking towards less selling pressure from Grayscale. And as of right now, Grayscale is still currently holding around 500,000 Bitcoin worth over 21 billion US dollars. But once again, they're not selling that entire amount right now. And we're actually seeing reduced selling pressure each day compared to around a week or 2 weeks ago. And what's very interesting is even though Grayscale is selling less Bitcoin, BlackRock is actually buying even more Bitcoin. That is right, they are ramping up their Bitcoin buys, adding even more buying pressure to the Bitcoin market, because as we can see here, BlackRock now holds over 56,000 Bitcoin worth nearly 2.5 billion US dollars, as we can see on their own website. Once again, right now, BlackRock is holding 56,629 Bitcoin worth over 2.44 billion US dollars in their spot Bitcoin ETF. And so this means just in the last 24 hours, just in the last one day, BlackRock has accumulated over 4,600 Bitcoin worth around 200 million US dollars just in the last one day. And so with BlackRock buying more and more Bitcoin for their spot Bitcoin ETF, obviously this is taking a lot of Bitcoin off the market and adding more buying pressure to Bitcoin. And once again, this is happening at the same time as less and less selling pressure is coming out of Grayscale. And so obviously with less selling pressure and more buying pressure, this is bullish for Bitcoin, which I've been talking about recently on the channel, especially over the last few days. But anyway, getting into the Bitcoin charts, taking a look at the daily time frame, and right now the bounce is still continuing exactly from this area of support, which is still sitting in between around 37.9k to around 38,500, which is pretty much exactly where we saw a bounce in the price of Bitcoin. And what we have now seen over the last one day is an official bullish cross confirm here in the daily Bitcoin MACD, which basically means we're beginning to see some more bullish momentum show up here on the chart. And so all we need to see now in order to flip much more bullish again is basically the invalidation of this bearish divergence, which as of right now, we have not yet invalidated the bearish divergence, because as of right now, we have not yet seen a breakout above this descending line of resistance here in the daily Bitcoin RSI. But if we do end up seeing a breakout here in the RSI, and especially some higher lows and higher highs form again, then that can help to invalidate this bearish divergence, which once again can result in more bullish momentum. And so essentially right now on the daily time frame, we're at the stage where we're potentially flipping from short-term bearish back to short-term bullish in terms of the trend and momentum, because the MACD has already flipped bullish again, and the RSI is very close to flipping bullish again, but it is not yet confirmed a bullish reversal here in the RSI. And if we're taking a look at the DXY, also known as the US dollar index, of course, over the last 1 week or so, this has been trading sideways, as I've talked about recently on the channel. And as of right now, it's still basically trading sideways, so it's not really having much of an effect on the price of Bitcoin while it's just trading sideways. But obviously, as you can see here, if the DXY is bullish, that is usually bearish for Bitcoin and crypto. And if the DXY is bearish, that is usually bullish for Bitcoin and crypto. And so as always, I'll keep you up to date on what's happening here in the DXY. Of course, if we see a change in the DXY, if it flips more bullish or more bearish, I'll be sure to let you know about it here in these videos. And so if you want these daily update videos, then make sure you subscribe to this channel if you haven't already, and make sure you turn on notifications so that you don't miss out on any of these important update videos. And if you're enjoying this video so far, I would appreciate it if you leave a like down below, because it really helps out with the videos. But anyway, taking a quick look at the shorter term, looking at the 2-hour time frame, and right now, as of recording this video, the price of Bitcoin is running into this area of resistance, which is sitting in between around 43.3k going up towards around 43.6k based on previous resistance. And I did mention on the channel just recently that we did see a successful retest of this area of previous resistance now acting as new support, and that area is sitting in between around 41.7k to 42.2k. And I said if we see a bounce from that area and continue further to the upside, then once again, the next resistance is sitting at around 43,500, which we are now running into. And as I've said recently on the channel, it's at this point that I'd flip much more bullish again if we break out above this resistance. So if we see a confirmed breakout back above around 43.6k approximately, basically breaking well above these previous highs, then at that point, once again, I will flip much more bullish again in the short term, expecting a further recovery up towards the local highs. But at least as of right now, in the short term, once again, we do have a bearish divergence with higher highs in the price and lower highs in the 2-hour Bitcoin RSI. And so with the price now running into a bit of short-term resistance at the same time as forming a short-term bearish divergence, I would not be surprised if we do end up seeing at least some sort of sideways consolidation or possibly a slight pullback just in the immediate short term here. But if we eventually see a breakout above this resistance after some sort of pullback of some sort, then of course, in that case, once we confirm a breakout above this resistance, then we can flip much more bullish again. And so basically the situation in the short term right now is at the moment, we're currently within a bullish relief or a bullish recovery in the immediate short term due to more buying pressure from BlackRock and less selling pressure from Grayscale. But in the imminent short term, as in the coming hours, possibly over the next one day, we could end up seeing a slight break from that bullish price action due to this short-term bearish divergence and the price running into short-term resistance. But ultimately, after a bit of a pause from that bullish price action, we could end up seeing a breakout later on. And at that point, we can start to flip much more bullish again once we break out above this resistance. And if you want to trade these moves in the price of Bitcoin or any other crypto, whether we're bearish or bullish, you can make money in either direction with long positions and short positions. And personally, I take those trades over on Bybit. So I'll make sure to leave a link to Bybit in the description down below and in the pinned comment. And if you use that link to make a Bybit account and deposit on that account, you can get up to a $30,000 deposits bonus, but only if you use that link down below this video. But for whatever reason, if you cannot access Bybit or if you cannot KYC on Bybit, there is also Bitflex, which is another crypto exchange similar to Bybit, but you don't need KYC for Bitflex. And so I'll also make sure to leave a link to Bitflex in the description down below and in the pinned comment. And if you use that link to make a Bitflex account and deposit $100 worth of crypto and to make one trade over on Bitflex, then you can get 10 USDT completely for free, along with other new deposit bonuses. And so if you're trading crypto anyway, or if you're preparing to take the next trade, you might as well get set up or ready to go on one of those exchanges using those links down below this video if you want to get those extra bonuses. But anyway, taking a quick look at the 8-hour Bitcoin chart, and what we are now seeing is the 8-hour Bitcoin RSI is extremely close to overbought territories. And if we're simply looking at the last few times where the 8-hour Bitcoin RSI entered into overbought territories, obviously all of these previous times that happened around some sort of local high in the price of Bitcoin just before a little bit more of a short-term pullback. And now this does not necessarily mean we're going to see a massive crash and a huge bearish trend reversal, because obviously these short-term pullbacks can happen during a bullish trend. But once again, it is worth pointing out that the 8-hour RSI is very close to overbought territories, which means very soon we have somewhat limited room to the upside. So we could see a slight move to the upside continue. But once again, that room to the upside is limited, at least in the short term. So we're due to see some sort of short-term cool-off sometime soon. And that could potentially coincide with this bearish divergence on the 2-hour time frame and the price running into this resistance. And once again, that cool off can either be a sideways consolidation or a slight pullback, because both neutral price action and bearish price action can help reset the RSI. And we also have this area of resistance worth paying attention to based on a previous price action. And this area of resistance is sitting in between around 44.3k to around 44.7k. And basically, that's pretty much the final area of resistance before potentially heading up towards the local highs, which is sitting closer towards around 47 to 48,000. And if we're taking a quick look at the Bitcoin liquidation heat map, as of right now, we still have a lot of liquidity to the downside, sitting at around 39,500. And we also have some liquidity sitting at around 41,500, and a small amount of liquidity just to the upside, sitting at around 44,000. But once again, at least as of right now, in the Bitcoin liquidation heat map, the majority of the liquidity is still currently sitting to the downside, which is very interesting, because usually the price of Bitcoin trends towards where there's most liquidity. And over the last 1 week or so, there has been a lot of liquidity to the upside just in the short term, pushing the price higher. And so with a lot of liquidity now sitting to the downside, the Bitcoin liquidation heat map is potentially suggesting some slightly lower prices sometime soon. But obviously this is not a 100% guarantee. It's just based on this one chart right here. But anyway, getting into the Ethereum part of this video, this is on the daily time frame, and right now the bounce is still continuing from this area of support, which is sitting in between around 2.1k to around 2150. And if we're taking a look at the daily Ethereum price oscillators, right now the MACD is still showing less and less bearish momentum trending towards a bullish cross, but we have not yet seen a bullish cross for Ethereum in the MACD. And as of right now, the bearish divergence on the daily time frame is technically still active because we have not yet invalidated the bearish divergence. We have simply not yet seen any invalidation signals, like for example, a breakout or reversal in the RSI into higher lows or higher highs. And so at least as of right now, with the bearish divergence still active, but with the MACD showing less and less bearish momentum, technically speaking, this is relatively neutral for the trend and momentum in the short term. And if we're zooming into a smaller time frame, looking at the 4-hour time frame, this short-term fractal is still currently playing out, which I've been talking about almost every day since all the way back down here. Because once again, as I've been saying here on the channel, we do have two major bounces from this exact area of support sitting in between around 2170 to 2200, very similar to what we saw just here. And then after seeing those two major bounces from this exact area of support previously, we ended up seeing a bullish move and then a higher low above that area of support, very similar to what we have just seen. And on top of this similar price structure, of course, if we're looking at the 4-hour Ethereum RSI, this is also currently trending to the upside, forming higher lows and higher highs, very similar to what we saw previously. And so once again, as I've mentioned recently on the channel, this is not a 100% perfect copy compared to what we saw previously, but it is very similar price structure and also very similar looking in the RSI as well. And so obviously, if this fractal continues to play out, it does suggest more bullish price action, basically a further bullish recovery in the price of ETH, because that was indeed the outcome of the previous price action. And also in the much shorter term on the 2-hour time frame, technically speaking, this short-term bullish divergence is still active, which I've been talking about since all the way back down here. And once again, a bullish divergence means we're due to see a reduced bearish momentum, which usually plays out in the form of either choppy sideways price action, if not a slight bullish relief as the most likely outcomes. But similar to Bitcoin on the 2-hour time frame, we're also potentially forming a bearish divergence right here with higher highs in the price and very slightly lower highs here in the RSI. But as of right now, we don't really have a lot of confirmation for this bearish divergence because as of right now, the RSI is still basically trading sideways around the current local high. And so, for example, if we see a little bit more bullish price action in the price of ETH, then that can quickly pull the RSI further to the upside into new higher highs. And obviously, if we have higher highs in the price and higher highs in the RSI, there's no divergence at all. And so basically, we need to see a little bit more of a pullback in the RSI to actually cement that lower high in place to become more confident that we actually have a bearish divergence playing out in the short term. But in the meantime, once again, we're still playing out that short-term bullish fractal. And so overall, I'm leaning slightly more bullish than bearish in the short term, as I've said recently on the channel with this bullish fractal now playing out. And if we're taking a quick look at the price of Solana on the 8-hour time frame, obviously over the last 1 day, we have now seen a breakout above this line of resistance, which was sitting at around $98 to $99. And we're also currently breaking out above this previous resistance right here, which was sitting at around $102 to $103. And so the next resistance to watch out for is this line, which is sitting at around $108 to $109. And above that, the next resistance is at around $115. And above that, the next resistance is sitting closer towards $120 to $125 based on the local high. And now that the price of Solana has finally made a new higher high just in the short term, this is technically one bullish reversal signal pointing towards a bullish trend reversal from this previous short-term bearish trend into a new short-term bullish trend. And so right now we have seen the early signs of a bullish trend reversal breaking out above these previous highs. But if we're looking at the 8-hour RSI, this is currently overbought. And so as I explained earlier in the video for Bitcoin, this means technically we have limited room to the upside, at least in the short term. And as for short-term support, I would now expect support right here sitting at around $98 to $99. And below that, we also have this level of support at around $92 and more support down towards around $84 to $85. And if you want to know how you can profit from crypto, no matter if the price is bullish, bearish, or simply chopping around sideways, you can profit in all of that price action by watching these videos popping up right here on your screen. The video in the top left shows you how to make money if the price is bullish or bearish using long positions and short positions, and the video in the bottom left shows you how you can easily profit from choppy sideways price action. But anyway, that's everything that I have to say for today. I really hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you all in the next video.